This is some great news. Asadollah Badfar, he was killed over the last 2 days. This was confirmed by the Defense of Democracies, and it was also confirmed by the Israelis. They're not confirmed by the Iranians yet, but they don't like to admit this. Look for a big funeral in his response. What is their symbol? This goes to show you their symbol. These men and these guys actually made their name and the human waves that used to run, just the men, used to run at the Iraqi tanks during the Iran-Iraq war. That was where the Basij made its name. And that's why these ruthless guys who are ideologues to the nth degree and severe Islamic extremists will crack down ruthlessly on the average everyday Iranian who just wants to say in their government. Here's a look at how they get their guys. They look at people sold on this mission, and they recruit mostly young men into it, and they consist primarily of working-class men who just want to actually subscribe to the extremist religion. What can you say about them? Without them, the Iranians could rise up. What are they? A division of the IRGC. So as we talk back to Trey, is there anything you'd like to add about this group that people should keep in mind if they want to see the Iranians take back their government? Don't you believe, Trey, this group's got to be neutralized?
Yeah, Brian, this is a really important part of the story that we are covering on the ground in Iran. When you look at Iran's IRGC, it's made up of 5 separate branches. We know about the Quds forces, President Trump ordering that targeted strike against Qasem Soleimani back in 2020. We know about their air force and ground forces. It's the Basij forces, though, one of the branches that is responsible for the crackdown on protesters in Iran. One of the reasons that Operation Epic Fury began. We saw the attention shift back to Iran earlier this year when the Basij forces went into the streets and directly confronted the pro-democracy protesters who were peacefully demonstrating in the streets of their country. President Trump believes 32,000 Iranian civilians were slaughtered, mainly by these forces, as they went on motorcycles and in cars and opened fire on demonstrators. And so there has been a concerted effort, I'm told, by intelligence officials here and in the United States to go after the leadership structure of the Basij forces and their command and control centers. We saw earlier in Operation Epic Fury intense airstrikes against the capital of Tehran, taking out the command centers that they used to order the crackdown on protesters. And we expect the degrading of this part of the organization to continue in the days ahead, because the Israelis and the Americans want to create the conditions for the Iranian people, if they want to go to the streets in the days or weeks ahead, that they can do so. And they will have less security forces there. They will have a weakened structure that would allow them to demonstrate against the regime that we know has simply replaced the former supreme leader with his son, Mojtaba Khamenei. This is a man who actually has very close ties to the Basij forces. He was directed by his father in the past, even in 2009 during the Green Movement protests in Iran, to use these individuals to crack down on peaceful demonstrators. And so very big developments on the ground as the Israelis and Americans go after these headquarters, and we can expect more of the leadership structure of this wing of the IRGC to be taken out in the days ahead. Brian?
Great job, Trey.
Yeah, I'm reading about them, but they monitor population for anti-government sentiment. They enforce the strict dress codes and social norms. They're the morality police, and they're criticized often. The group is widely criticized for using excessive, often lethal force against protesters, including torturing and killing detainees.
So the Israelis said they're looking to take them out. What they did to show that they're still a force when the war started, they set up checkpoints, and now we're bombing the checkpoints.
Taking them out. Decentralizing the coordination is going to making it hard for them to coordinate with one another is going to be make it easier for Israel and the United States to take all of those leaders out.
I'm pleased to report that earlier today, the International Energy Agency agreed to coordinate the release of a record 400 million barrels of oil from various national petroleum reserves around the world, which will substantially reduce the oil prices as we end this threat to America and this threat to the world. We don't want to leave early, do we? We got to finish the job, right?
Absolutely. The U.S. will tap into oil reserves in an effort to lower energy prices. But despite that, oil prices pressing higher at this hour, as the State Department warns Iran could be planning attacks on American oil and energy infrastructure over in Iraq. This after the IRGC claimed responsibility for firing on ships in the Strait of Hormuz. KT McFarland serves as Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump and joins us now. The only ships getting through there are Iranian vessels. Why are we letting Iran be able to ship oil to China? Why don't we stop that? We're pretty good at stopping barges. I'm sure you've seen it in Venezuela.
Yeah, we're pretty good at dealing with the Strait of Hormuz. We've been dealing with that going back to the Reagan administration, where we stopped those vessels going through. The president has said that the United States could escort our tankers through, the United States Navy. And he's also said that we, the United States, could insure. The problem is insurance. They can't get insurance because it's a war zone. We would give them the insurance. But he hasn't done either of those things yet. And what happens is Iran is letting ships go through, tankers go through, that are Iranian tankers, that are illegal ghost tankers. And the tankers just say, hey, we're on our way to China, don't bother us. And so Iran lets them through. We could stop this. We just haven't done it so far. I would urge the president to, if he wants to keep the Strait of Hormuz open, do it quicker. Do it sooner rather than later.
KT, it seems like so many of the president's objectives have been reached. But the question is, how much of their interior Gestapo-like forces, the Basij, have to be destroyed before the people of Iran rise up, being that we haven't really armed them yet and the Iranian government doesn't let them have any arms?
We're working our way down the target list, and the initial target list was the Navy, the Air Force, the command and control centers, the senior tier of leadership of the Revolutionary Guard and of the government. But what we haven't gone after are these Basij, and you're right. These are thugs. These are guys on motorcycles that are thugs. And this is the internal, they're not even a regular police, they're just gangs. And they go into towns, into regions, into remote areas, and they arrest women without headscarves, bring them into jail, rape them, and beat them. That's the Basij. And until somebody gets a hold of the Basij, whether it is the Israelis bomb their headquarters, whether it is the government itself, potentially a new Iranian government that goes after the Basij is a cancer within. And until they're dealt with, then I don't think you're going to see a lot of people going back out into the streets, except people who are knowing they're going to die, because the Basij are going to just tackle them, arrest them, beat them, torture them, kill them.
Right. We killed their commander. We're killing a lot more. And the Israelis' intelligence on the ground is unbelievable. Hopefully that leads to grabbing that uranium out of some of those destroyed sites. Maybe that'll be something that'll be announced shortly. Let's talk about oil. They think their greatest offense is getting oil up to $200 a barrel. Here's Energy Secretary Chris Wright on what we're doing.
We are every hour of every day degrading their military ability to threaten ships in the Straits of Hormuz. We will release collectively 400 million barrels. This is to tide the world over while these flows are restricted by Iran. But ultimately, the United States military will prevail. We will end their ability to impede traffic through the Straits of Hormuz, and ships will flow again.
So we released some from our strategic oil reserve, and so did 32 other countries. That's a pretty good adaptation.